Right, so we're joined via Zoom by Director of South African Energy Forum, Zak Madela, to weigh in on Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's decision to withdraw his decision that's now been published in a special government gazette. Godongwana has told the 5 committees of Parliament that the decision to exempt Eskom is taken on the basis of what he terms the power utilities' financial sustainability. Zak, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you for your time here on the SABC.
Good afternoon to you, Lizelle, and good afternoon to your listeners at SABC.
I think just before we get into the reactions on the reversal by Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana, I want your reaction and comment on what just transpired after the announcement by COGTA Minister that the National State of Disaster of Electricity has now officially ended. Given the timing and implications of what's transpired after that briefing, do you think it was enough to assuring South Africans and investors that government has the correct measures in place?
No, I don't think so. I actually think they are hiding behind the pronouncement that they have been able to implement all the measures that they needed to implement and processes. It appears to me that they are avoiding the legal case or the legal lawsuit from the likes of ALTA and AfriForum. But on the flip side of the coin, we really didn't need this. We just needed a tough government to make sure that they run the country. So my assessment is that perhaps with the stabilization of Eskom, there's a level of comfort that says, look, instead of us being exposed to the legal process, maybe we should support the Minister of Electricity and contain the situation as it is. But I think there's been pressure from Solidarity and ALTA.
Because on the back of that, the turnaround, based on what was needed under that state of disaster from the 9th of February, it's quite remarkable. One is to look at the interventions that had been taken or implemented since the 9th of Feb to date, and one is to question what that was. If there was such a quick turnaround strategy, how did it take us this long to even get to this point? How would you weigh in on that?
Well, basically what has happened, even though we are being told that this was a plan that was crafted in November last year, what we do know that with the measures that President Ramaphosa announced at the State of the Nation address and the appointment of the Minister of Finance, there's been a change of mindset to encourage the people at Eskom, but also not to be subjected to the pressure of the independent power producers, and also to try and look after the machines of Eskom that have been brought back to service. You remember the first announcement that we had was that 6 units had been brought back, and there was a promise that we could get another additional 2,000 by the end of March. So there's a stabilization of the coal power stations because of the people that are there. They are focused on getting those units to work. Whereas the previous management that was under the Reiter and Jan Operosa, every unit that broke down, they had no intention to bring it back. So it's something to be celebrated. Really, what has brought these good results is the trust that has been shown by the current CEO and the Minister of Electricity to what we already had, which was breaking down but being brought back to service.
Well, with such remarkable results in such a short period, one has to really applaud the pressures that have been placed on government and the interventions then to date, and perhaps see, where to from here. Let's go on to the issue at hand as well, that I, in my introduction, spoke about the reversal of the exemption by the Finance Minister to grant Eskom the exemption from disclosing irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Do you think that the minister was ill-advised, having placed this gazette in place from the beginning? And what would have ultimately, caused him to make such a quick turnaround?
Well, your first part of the question, I don't think that the minister was ill-advised. Irregular expenditures, they are quite normal in all businesses, not only in the public sector. I think the word that is problematic is a fruitless one, because if something is a fruitless expenditure, it needs to be dealt with. But irregular basically means that you deviate from the normal processes in order to contain the current situation that you have at hand. So he was not ill-advised, and this must continue. But also, the minister himself, he has not said that he is withdrawing it permanently. He has said that for now, up until there is proper consultation with the Office of the Auditor General and the auditors of Eskom, Deloitte and Touch, as well as the other stakeholders. So the idea is to contain the situation and make sure that the reframing of this exemption to indulge in irregular expenditures, it's just like in any other normal business, and corruption is being cut out of it and wasteful expenditure is being cut out of it. So we're looking forward for the minister to come back and implement this irregular expenditure for the proper containment of the situation, but not to indulge in corruption and not to indulge in wasteful expenditure.
On the back of that, as we await, consultations with the Auditor General, as cited by Finance Minister, how will such a reversal of a decision increase Eskom's borrowing costs when it plans to raise more money or even new money from lenders to fund its operations, which was a concern cited by the Minister himself?
Look, I'm not from a financial background. I'll be lying if I attempt to answer this question. All I can say is that I believe that Eskom was going to find it very hard to report financially and report properly with them being allowed to indulge in irregular expenditure. But with the irregular expenditure or not, remember there is a bailout of 254 billion rand that has been extended to Eskom, and it was on condition that Eskom Generation cannot go to the market and loan money for new investment. So with or without that irregular expenditure, there's still this big condition that the government and Eskom are unable to repay the debt of 400 billion rand. And the only way out of that is to extend the bailout of 254. That doesn't change. So it's really immaterial in terms of them being able to. But of course, from those who are in the financial background, they do say that it would have negatively impacted on how Eskom reports on its financial. And of course, the creditors would have been worried about them now not reporting some of the irregular expenditures, because I think the crux of this thing was that it was going to allow them not to report irregular expenditures on their financials, provided they've got nothing to do with corruption and fruitful expenditure.
Yeah, which brings to the fore the issue of corruption, good governance and transparency at large. Thank you for your time here on the SABC. We'll leave the conversation there for now as it continues, perhaps where we raise more questions at a later stage. Director of South African Energy Forum, Zak Madela, weighing in on the back of Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's decision to now withdraw his decision, which has now officially been published in a special government gazette.